Muy buenas tardes, tengan todos ustedes bienvenidos a la transmisión más de Grita Radio. Mi nombre es Axel Barceló y el día de hoy estoy muy emocionado, aparte muy divertido, porque tenemos a Mehro aquí en cabina. Welcome, Mehro, and welcome to Mexico City.
Thank you for so much for having me.
No, it's a pleasure. We're really looking forward to this meeting. We're also looking forward to the presentation at Bajo Circuito. And yeah, it's the first time you come to Mexico, the first time you're in Mexico.
It's the first time I'm in Mexico City.
Yes. Even not for performing, just in your life.
In my life, first time in Mexico City.
Even though you're in Los Angeles, which is kind of Mexico City.
It's second Mexican.
Exactly, it's Mexico City Junior.
Yes. I just found out recently that Los Angeles has the second most Mexicans in the world.
Exactly.
Behind Ciudad de Mexico.
Exactly. Yeah. So
incredible. How lucky are we in Los Angeles to have such a beautiful?
Actually, I don't know. I haven't been to Los Angeles in a long time. So I don't know. Is it like a separate reality, or you actually interact a lot with Mexicans?
I'm lucky enough to interact with Mexicans, and I would say it's very. There's parts that are separated where it's more dominated, but I think there's lots of cultures with all sorts of different people, all sorts of different lifestyles together.
But that means because you search for it, because that's why you are looking for that, or it's just a normal thing that if you are living in LA, you have to encounter all these cultures.
If you're living in LA, there are multiple cultures to appreciate, learn about, be around. I think it's harder to separate yourself from it rather than be a part of it, if that makes sense.
And do you remember how you realized this? Or how you realized that in other places it wasn't like this, that you were actually privileged in that sense?
It's a great question. Gosh, what was it that made me realize it? I think maybe it was even, for some reason, the Olympics are coming to mind.
Oh, that makes sense.
When you see an American team, all kinds of different people.
You're right.
Whereas with certain other countries, it's one particular type of person. And I thought that was interesting to me. And then you understand that not every place is like Los Angeles in America. Very separate, very different places as well. So I'll give credit to the Olympics.
Well, we're talking about what year? I don't remember. Last time.
I don't remember.
I remember there was one in '84, but I don't know. You must have.
Not in Los Angeles. Sorry. On the television.
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay.
I've never been to the Olympics. No. Just seeing it on TV made me realize that we have a lot of different kinds of people and how I feel lucky to know so many different kinds of people.
No, it is actually. That's also why I'm happy that you're here, that we're having this conversation in English, because that also means that we are, even if we have different cultures, different languages, we still share another culture. That's also why you're here. That's also why people enjoy your music. You know, there are differences that are being erased by people like you.
Well, thank goodness your English is so awesome. And I was invited here and welcomed here, and I've only been welcomed here since I've been here by people, by the country, and as you know, some amazing miracles have happened. I'm very lucky, very lucky.
But tell us, how did you end up deciding to have this show here? Right? Did you know that there were people in Mexico that wanted to hear you, or you're trying to create new fans? How did this happen?
Ciudad de Mexico is my second most listened to city for my music, supposedly, according to what my team has told me. And I wasn't necessarily expecting to come out here and perform, but the opportunity presented itself. The invitation was really kind. I said, you have to be open to the universe giving you such a gift.
And were you surprised when you found out that this was the second place? Or do you have any hypotheses of why this is so?
I don't have I'm lucky enough to be able to talk with my fans quite often. And I've met a lot of my fans via Zoom. And I know a lot of them are from Mexico. So I've gotten the opportunity to speak to a lot of my Mexican fans. But I don't have a hypothesis to why the songs resonate with people in Mexico. I can't say.
You didn't ask them. How did you? I mean, how you're in Mexico City? How did you find out about the music? You never asked
Exactly.
them?
Exactly. I don't know. All I know is that I'm happy to be here, and I have a phrase: everything is always working out for us. That's a phrase that I live my life by. So you have to be open to the universe when it gives you a gift like this.
Let's talk about the gift of music. You, in a certain sense, you give us your gift through music, but also you also are like being able to make music is also a gift for you. Right? So how do you open yourself? How did you decide? Music is something that I just don't want to be like a hobby, but it is central to my life. How did you find out that this had to be like that?
I realized that it was the most difficult dream that I could accomplish. And for whatever reason, it was the most fulfilling experience overall for me, being able to have an emotion, being able to express it specifically through music. Not trying to sound like anything else, not trying to be popular, not trying to be anything except expressing a specific emotion that needs to be expressed. That process and realizing how difficult it is to be an artist is what made me say, let's go for this, let's see what happens.
But does that mean that these emotions that you express in your music, you wouldn't have been able to express them through any other means? Did you even try, like writing, acting, dancing?
So I remember the specific moment that I had with a really, really close friend of mine where she made me so angry, furious. And no, it's okay. I probably deserved it. And I had to go home and just write. I had to type out my feelings about this person, about the situation. I couldn't let it stay inside of me. I was 15 at the time. And I didn't realize it then, but I realized it years later. Like, oh, that moment was very important for me. I wouldn't allow myself to keep this inside. I couldn't because it was poisonous. And the power of art. So, yes, I love writing in other ways, poems, scripts, all sorts of different things. Songs are uniquely challenging.
Did you have somebody else read that thing you wrote that time, or how did you pass that next step, saying, okay, no, it's not enough to create. I also need to share this, have like an audience, have somebody else involved.
No one has ever read that. However, I made little videos for school. So anytime that there was a big project at the end of school, or at the end of the semester, I would always make a video. So the kids in my class were like, "Oh yeah, it's cool. He's making a video," and because they liked them, and seeing that process, because they were just a comedy video, it was silly, but it had something to do with what we were learning in class. Seeing that those people accepted me and my ridiculousness, it's like, huh, well, that's a very fulfilling experience. No one's ever asked me this question before, so I've never given these answers.
That's great. That's why we have different interviews.
I
Otherwise,
guess
we
so.
don't ask the same thing all the time.
I guess so.
Okay, so but then the way you're painting the picture here, it started with things that were not that personal, right? But your songs are personal, right? So how did that good feeling about sharing with others became a trust in the audience, so that you could bury yourself?
Well, I mean, there was a person in my life who I loved sharing my songs with. And so that one person was my audience for at least a year. They were my audience. Where if I loved sharing it was fulfilling to share my songs with them. And whether or not they liked the song necessarily, or enjoyed that I shared this song with them, I think they loved that they were the only person hearing it. So that experience with that person was very inspiring to me. Is still powerful and still resonates with me. And they, I think, allowed me to believe that I was enough
Yeah.
as a person and as an artist to share those vulnerable feelings.
So you get that trust in yourself also and in the other, that's when you thought, well, maybe I could have a podcast, go on stage. Was it hard? Did you not remember your first time? They were not that long ago, right? So were hard those first times on stage? Or maybe you're a natural. Maybe you just felt at home under the
Not,
lights.
not always. There have been some amazing experiences. There have been some not so amazing experiences.
Okay, share with us.
Have you heard of Bakersfield?
No.
Bakersfield is a place in California. You don't need to go. And I played at a community college at Bakersfield in a cafeteria
I've done that. So
to a group of people that could care less. At least 33% of them, I realized by the end of the performance, were deaf.
Oh.
There was an entire section of people that I realized by the end were signing to each other, and that couldn't even hear me play. Nor did they care. I think they still didn't want to be there, even though they couldn't hear me.
Well, why weren't they there then? Or the rest of the
It
people?
was the cafeteria. People were
so
eating,
we're eating.
and they were communicating with each other. And I just realized how many people were speaking sign language. I guess I'm just assuming that they were deaf. But and there was this person that was in the front row, and I started singing a song, and they went, "Ugh," and they walked to the back of the cafe.
Why would you do something like that? I mean, you could just be gentle, just walk away if you don't like that. Why would somebody do that? That's so cruel.
It was an experience that I will never forget.
It's humbling.
It's yup, and overall, I will never forget it. The entire experience. It's so vivid to me what that place looked like, what it smelled like, and I realized, okay, if I could do this, and still find some sort of joy from it, then anything will be okay.
And what about on the other side? What have been like some highlights of like, oh my God, this is so great. This is the reason why I'm here. It's great.
It's called the Moroccan Lounge.
Yes. I've heard about it. I have never been there. But...
Okay. And I had my debut headline show in November 15th. I didn't know how many tickets were sold. I didn't know how many people were going to be there. I was expecting about 40. The place sold out. So it was a sold out crowd. And usually in Los Angeles, there's lots of talking in the show. People are always talking. That audience,
also here, unfortunately.
the audience was silent when I was singing. And then these roars of screams in between songs. It was nothing like I've ever experienced, where it was just beyond my wildest dreams and expectations to experience a show like that. That is also an experience I will never forget, and I don't expect every show to be like that. So just as I am okay with that show, that low, I know that not every show is going to be that high, and that's okay.
Of course, yeah. I mean, but I'm also glad that you have lived already those two things. Because that's the experience of being a live music performer.
Yes, you got to take the good with the bad, and if you're able to find joy. Yeah, I guess it sort of goes, if you're in love with somebody, and you're able to
That's a very good analogy.
accept them at their worst, and go, well, that's something, I can handle that. And then you see them at their best, and you know how it makes you feel. Well, then, it's meant to be.
That makes a lot of sense. You're right.
Are you in love with somebody?
Yes. Yeah, of course.
Very good.
He knows.
Very good. Very good.
But what about spoken? What do you remember? Like the best compliment you've received so far about your music?
I've gotten a few Actually, several times.
Oh, that's great.
So lots of different things because I write to my fans on online, on YouTube, on Instagram. I am in contact with my fans all the time, and I write down I keep track of my favorite things that people say to me, and I share them with my grandma, because she likes to read.
Of course, I can imagine if I had a grandchild, I would be like, oh, yeah.
So a lot of people have credited me for saving their life, which I always say that it's a testament to their strength, not to mine. It is your strength to be here, and that I am so happy that you are here. I'm so happy that you're still here. If you've credited me for that, it's you who has the strength, and I'm honored that you're giving me credit for it. But it's you. Um, and days where they listen to the song on repeat over and over again with their lover or their best friend, that they will never forget that day, and that it was the soundtrack of that day. Core memories. A person admitted that it was the last song that they heard with their father before he passed away. And so every time they hear the song, they think of their father. Um, those are just a few things that are coming to my mind. The things that people have shared with me are it's unbelievable. It's unbelievable.
But that makes sense because your songs are not like background music, right? Like they're so full of intimacy, and also it makes sense that people would incorporate them in their lives. Is this like a conscious choice? Did you ever try writing something like more shallow or just like a dance happy party song? Or how did you come up with this sound? Why is this Mehro?
I love the process of writing songs. I think no matter what bed of music, you give me something and I'll be able to write something to it if I'm inspired to. Doesn't I don't think of music in genres.
Okay.
So anything. I just love the process of capturing an emotion and writing it down. And I guess the songs that are out now are so specific to how I see the world, I guess, that it was a sound that resonated with me as something like, okay, this is something I'm okay with sharing, and I don't care how it is received. I don't care if people like it, or it's not my business. If people connect with it or not, it's not my business. And so once I reach that level, and it comes in many different ways too. So that's why there's so many different types of songs coming out now under my name. Lots of different sounds, because I don't want to just rely on things that are working necessarily. I want to be able to express myself with people, if that makes sense.
But I mean, I want to go back to something you just said a few minutes ago, because I think it resonates with something you just said, which is that you also like that it is hard for you to make the songs, and that there is a challenge there. So maybe that's also why you need to keep also changing the kind of songs you make, so that the challenge doesn't disappear.
It's very interesting. Some of my favorite songs were
Oh, really?
like this. However, my other favorite songs took months. And for anybody who's writing songs, each process is different. So if there's a song that comes easy, great. If there's a song that's taking a long time, let it take a long time. James Taylor said that Fire and Rain took him months or a year to write that song, and that there were some months in between each verse. Worth the time. Worth it. Because the song is great.
But if these songs are so linked to an emotion, isn't it hard to like go back to the emotions you had, and if it doesn't come fast, right? You have it in your desk, and you come it out like, oh, how do you go back to that emotion so that you can be like authentic and finish it in a coherent way?
Sometimes getting away from something gives you the most clarity.
That also that's also true. You're right.
So you have to trust yourself as a creator. You have to know when you're procrastinating and when you're doing what's best for the art. Fine line.
It is.
So It's a tough answer, but I'm sticking
That,
to
that
it.
makes sense. I mean, some ideas you have to let them rest for a while, go back, get a new perspective. But other ones, in other ones, you may be forgetting about, right? So
Forgetting or like it's hard to touch that emotion, so you don't want to touch it again, and that's how you know it needs to be written.
but then what about once you're on stage? Have you ever felt like, this song, I'm not in the mood for it now. It's going to affect me too much. I cannot do it right now. Or do you always are able to have enough of a distance that it doesn't affect you personally?
What inspires me is thinking about Broadway performers, how they have to do the same show 8 times a week. If you're a professional, you got to do that 8 times a week for 8 months in a row. And you got to be there for every single show.
You're right.
Crazy emotions, crazy highs, crazy lows. You got to hit your cue. You got to be in the right spot. You have to hit the perfect note. And there's no way that you're going to be able to feel it every single time that you're on stage. But people came to see you. People came to see this show. And you have to bring it to life. You have a responsibility. So for performers, it's not about playing. It's about delivering something to the audience, because you never know whose life you may affect. You never know who they need that song at that very moment. So, as you said, disconnecting yourself from it and being able to express the song no matter how you feel.
But does that mean that you're acting then on stage? There's a little bit of acting.
I think it's. I see it more as, because these are tales from. It's different. So, it's being able to touch that place without draining it out, without using. Does that make any sense?
Yes, of course.
So that it doesn't run dry. Because if you use it and keep hurting yourself, then it will run dry at some
That is
point.
my word, exactly.
It's a way of connecting to source while keeping it sacred.
That sounds paradoxical.
I, right. I understand. That's why it's so.
That's why I have never been able to. That's why I'm interviewing, not on stage.
Are you a musician?
Yeah,
What do you play?
but I play electronic music. No words.
That doesn't matter. Music is. That's.
It's,
That's
the kind
okay.
of music I make is very cerebral.
I would love to hear it.
Oh yeah, I will send you some links.
Okay, please.
That you listen to.
I would love to hear it.
And yeah, because I know of those paradoxes of like of how much it is you in the music, how much it is not, right? It is, you can also appreciate the value of something.
That's the other true part as well, is that it's something outside of yourself that was allowed the song to come. So that's the other part. That's the part that I'm missing. These songs, when they really speak to something, it has nothing to do with you.
Exactly.
You said it perfectly.
Well, that's, oh, thank you. I'm now embarrassed.
You shouldn't be. You should
No,
be
thank
proud.
you. But yes, exactly. I mean, I've interviewed other artists who are on the other side. They're like, they conceive of songs, like songwriting as a craft of creating something that is, that if it's well done, it stands on its own, right? And you can understand why people like it, because you know that it is well made, right? So they have this very objective view of some making, and that's also why I like asking people how they approach their craft, right? Because and also because there's something of technique, right? Did you study music, or how did you know that you could write songs?
I watched the movie Walk the Line.
Okay,
Have you
okay,
seen
that's an other. I wasn't expecting that kind of answer.
Have you seen the movie?
Actually, no, I haven't seen it.
It's a story about Johnny Cash.
I know that, but I haven't seen it.
Are you a fan of his music?
And more or less, not
I
as big as some of my friends who are like big fans.
I wasn't a fan of his music before I watched it. And I, again, un accidente magico.
Okay.
Did I say that correctly? Magical.
See,
Magical.
Mágico.
I watched that movie and it changed my life. I started playing guitar that night. And soon after, I realized I could write songs.
Okay, that is like a big black box there in the middle. I mean, there's okay. I picked up the guitar. There were songs. What happened in between? I mean,
It, when I saw Johnny Cash, I said, okay, if he could do it, I could do
but what if you had seen like a car racing movie? You would have said, "Oh yeah, I can drive 100 miles an hour."
it. It goes back to that thing of me realizing that this was my biggest dream, and I never accepted it,
Oh, okay. So you realized that you already wanted to do it, but you hadn't.
but I never told myself it because I said, I'm not. It's just not for me.
So you think you discovered something that was already there, and you saw the
Yes,
movie.
yes. And so when people, for other kids, when they see a racing movie, they go, "That's it." Or when you see your first crush that you've seen on on a TV screen, you go, "Who is that? What?" And it speaks to something that was here. That's that's what that movie was able to do for me. That's why I hold a very special place in my heart forever.
So what were you before that? What was Mehro before being Mehro?
I played basketball. I made videos. I wrote scripts. Um, I was in drama in high school. Um, I loved acting. I loved filmmaking. I still do. Um, but I'm not much different from that. It's just I have a unique way now of being able to express that I'm so sensitive. Always have been so sensitive. So just I'm now able to express those feelings rather than hold
Yeah,
on to them.
yeah, that's not a good idea. Don't.
Yes, yes, let them go. It's okay. Express them. Express them.
Yeah, because that's also another approach to music, right? It is not that you're making music to become famous or something like that, but it is because it helps you become who you are.
That's a very interesting way of putting it. Being famous is a byproduct of being recognized for the art.
Oh, that's true.
So that is personally not the reason why I'm doing this. Um, However, if things go really well, that may be something that has to be dealt with, and we'll deal with that if that so happens.
But there's a very subtle line between connecting with your audience, which is something that you want, and recognition. Like, why do we have to stay on this side, like on the side of connecting? And there is something like everybody seems to have this negative connotation with recognition and fame. Like like there's the negative side of success as an artist, and the positive side, which is the person, authenticity, expression, feeling. How do you keep this line? How do you stay on the authentic side?
Hmm. I'm lucky enough to have people in my life that keep me grounded.
Oh, that's good.
So I'm not all these beautiful things that people smell. I mean, that people say to me. It's there's going to be somebody that believes the opposite. So you have to accept that you're going to have good days, you're going to have bad days. Not every song you write is going to be a masterpiece. Not everything you do is amazing, though someone else might say, "Oh, everything you do is amazing. You're a genius. You're a person." And there are moments of brilliance in a person's life, and there are moments of not so brilliant in a person's life. And so I'm lucky to have people in my life that keep me grounded. And for those who are out there who are afraid of fame or recognition, um, I would presume that uh, that is fear of success rather than going for it. It's very difficult to do this.
Exactly, because even the word success is ambiguous between these two. Like accomplishing what you want, that sounds like, oh yeah, good. But then there is this other connotation of success that sounds so superficial, vain, like,
You're exactly correct, and but there it's a fine
it's a very fine line, I
it's a
know.
fine line because there are certain people who would not do well. There's somebody I know who is brilliant, who is very important in my life, and if they were famous, which they could have been, it would not be good. it would be very, very bad. Fortunately, they are not. So it's tough.
It is tough. Yeah, I met somebody who actually walked away from singing because she did find it too vain. She was like, no, this is too vain. This is, I mean, I still, music is still important to me, but I know that performing is not the way to become great.
It doesn't bring you happiness. It doesn't bring you fulfillment.
Exactly.
What does bring you fulfillment?
So that is the notion of success we want to keep. That one that has to do with your own criteria. That's why I keep going back to the authenticity.
Yes, I could tell. But what brings you fulfillment?
Oh, that's a good question. Myself, I feel
Yes.
I don't know. I feel okay. I'm gonna sound pretty arrogant, but I feel so fulfilled, like so cotidianously. Like it is something that, like the things I do on a day to day, I have achieved a certain level of that. My everyday activities are the kind of everyday activities that I am glad that I can do, and they're heterogeneous, as you are as well, right? As yours are as well. Um, but I don't think it is something that I am now pursuing.
There's nothing to your, but that's the point. And do you need that right?
I have no idea. Our producer is the one that knows it all.
We lost the
The connection?
the light.
Oh, is it?
Exacto.
Okay.
Está bien, está
Okay.
bien.
Lo siento. But that proves that you must have made so many good decisions in your life,
And I was very fortunate as well. Both things.
and so kudos to you for being able to recognize it, for being able to appreciate it, and to be able to live your life every day and be fulfilled. Not everybody is lucky enough to be able to do
No,
that.
I
Kudos.
agree. And I can almost pinpoint to those times where I didn't do anything and it's just a lie.
Mm.
But also uh, l- learning to enjoy the things that, learning to recognize those opportunities as something that can bring you activities that you can, that where you can be honest about yourself, right? Like this interview. I mean, I really really enjoyed doing this. Truly, I mean, the conversation, as I mentioned before, right? It's making something that is bigger than the two of us. Because through conversation is not just that you come here and say, come to my show, right?
Right.
It's creating something that well, this happened because it was you and it was me here. Otherwise, probably it wouldn't have happened, right? Those kind of things are things that are very, very, very valuable.
Your passion is very palpable. It's
Oh,
very
thank you.
clear, and I think maybe I'm speaking for multiple people here, that there is something about you that's very charismatic, very unique, and that's probably why all those things have aligned for you, because people probably want to help you. People like helping you. So it's a testament to you, with who you are as a person, your parents, your life, however you were raised.
Oh, thank you. Okay, I don't know how to follow that.
There's nothing to follow.
Mucho bien.
No, actually, I think we're also running out of time, and we have to say goodbye. It's a shame. I really, really enjoyed the conversation. Is there something that is left unsaid that you want the audience to know about Mehro, know about the show?
Well, I've got two shows on March 4th and March 5th in La Ciudad de Mexico, opening for Alice Phoebe Lee, which I'm very excited about. And the other thing I'd like to share is that my most recent song, Like Your God, is out, and I am so looking forward to sharing other sides of myself, as I mentioned, not different sounds, different forms of expression, and that comes from a series called Dark Corners. There's another series I've got called Alchemy. I have more and more songs to share with you on both of those series of music, and I can't wait for more parts of my soul to be exposed to you. I can't wait to share it with you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your time, for crossing the city to come to see us.
Oh, it's my pleasure, actually. Thank you for having me.
No, al contrario. Muchísimas gracias. Pues nosotros nos despedimos. Mero, mi nombre es Axel Barceló. Esto es Grita Radio.